What's up, everyone? This is Jenny, your host with the most.
And I'm your co-host, Jessie.
You're listening to Milkshakes and Ghosts.
This is a podcast where we discuss ghostly encounters and hauntings while drinking milkshakes.
We are a team when it comes to the paranormal, the mother and daughter duel of podcasting.
We changed it up today. We're not drinking milkshakes.
That's right, no milkshakes today.
We decided to make a healthier drink. Today we're drinking smoothies.
No regrets on that decision to make these wonderful smoothies. It's much needed with this heat that we're having. My gosh, it's so darn hot. Jessie made both of our smoothies today.
I blended our smoothies with silk peach yogurt, strawberries, blueberries, a banana with a dash of pomegranate juice. It's healthy and tastes delicious.
It's very delicious indeed, Jessie. Thank you so much for making this for me today. I'm really enjoying it.
I'm excited on the story I'm covering today. Is it okay if I go first?
If you're excited for your story, then I'm double excited because I know it's going to be good. Of course, you can go first.
Maybe it is, maybe it's not.
I've seen you researching nonstop these last 2 days. I didn't pry too much into what you were doing, but I figured you were looking at something ghostly, trying to get something going for the podcast. Am I right?
Uh-huh. That's exactly what I've been doing. I researched this a lot, and I hope you enjoy the terrifying tale of Bridget Bishop, the first person executed for witchcraft.
The name sounds really familiar. Does this have to do with Salem witch trials by any chance?
Perhaps?
I can't wait to hear your creepy story. You go, girl.
Okay, here we go. Although Bridget was accused of witchcraft and consorting with the devil, I believe her true crime may have been simply not following the cultural norms of the time. Let's talk about Bridget's early life before she was accused of anything. Bridget Bishop was born somewhere between 1632 and 1635 in England. Her maiden name was Magnus. She, her sister Mercy, her father John, and her mother Rebecca adopted the last name Playfair, Bridget's paternal grandmother's maiden name. Bridget stood out amongst most women of the time. Her approach to marriage was much different. Her first marriage to Samuel Wesley seems to have gone without incident before he died in 1664. Her second marriage to Thomas Oliver in 1666 was troubled. Thomas was already a widower with children, and the couple is said to have fought frequently. Bridget was also seen with bruises on her face. Rumor has it that Thomas was abusive to Bridget.
Thomas Oliver sounds like a pig, like a true oink oink pig.
Well, actually, Thomas passed away in 1679. His death unleashed the first accusations against Bridget. Thomas Oliver's children began to accuse Bridget of witchcraft. They claimed that their father died as a result of Bishop bewitching them. The case was eventually thrown out due to lack of evidence. It seemed like the Oliver children were more interested in snagging Bishop's inherited property, since Oliver didn't leave a will at the time of his death. Bishop's final marriage was to a man named Edward Bishop.
She was married 3 times? Do I have that right? 3 times?
Yeah.
My goodness, she was busy. That's a lot of marriages.
Bridget Bishop was brought to trial for witchcraft once again in 1692, after Abigail Williams and Elizabeth Parris named her as one of the reasons behind their mysterious illnesses. Bridget Bishop joined a total of 13 women and 5 men, including Elizabeth Proctor, Giles Corey, and Rebecca Nurse, all being accused of witchcraft. After much examination, Bridget Bishop's trial lasted 8 days. This was the official start of the Salem witchcraft trials. She was sentenced to death and hung on June 10, 1692. Her last words were, "I am no witch. I am innocent. I know nothing of it."
That's really sad. There was so much ignorance back then.
If you looked or acted different, you were accused of witchcraft back then. Now, let's get to the haunting.
Okay, Jesse, tell me about the ghost.
The property of 43 Church Street is now said to have once belonged to Bridget Bishop. It used to contain her apple orchard. Now purchased by J. Turner Seafood in 2013, it has become a bar and grill.
Sounds like a good place to catch lunch. I'm getting really hungry right now.
Yeah, lunch and maybe ghost. Staff and customers have reported doors closed and open on their own. Lights flicker on and off. Boxes were once thrown down the stairs from an unseen specter. Employees of Salem's Lyceum even say that they smell more than seafood, like the slight scent of Bridget Bishop's apple orchard. Others say that you can see Bridget Bishop herself.
Lunch is starting to sound less appealing. I don't think I want to eat here.
If you think that's creepy, then the woman in white should send you over to the seat. Okay, I know that there's a lot of women in white that we always hear about, but that's okay.
I swear there's always a woman in white in almost every ghost story. Didn't we just cover that? I did, right?
I think we covered that in episode 1 or 2.
Yeah, the Flagler College phantoms. One of the women were dressed in white.
Floating up the staircase and through the second story, Bridget Bishop, once the woman in red, is now the woman in white. Terry Colbert, a former employee of the property's earlier establishment, informed the History Channel that she had spotted Bridget Bishop. Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures, likewise, felt the residual energies of a woman convicted of witchcraft. Sci-Fi's Ghost Hunters even examined the site in 2007, though focused on spirit sightings and Lyceum's mirrors.
Okay, this is getting too creepy. We should have podcasted during the day. Nighttime is not helping us right now.
The Atlantic Paranormal Society, also known as TAPS, made the most startling discovery once they attempted to speak to Lyceum's spirits. Ghosts chose to speak to them through the cash register. The cash register printed a receipt, time-stamped, "Good morning," yet the register hadn't been programmed to print the phrase. The manager was unable to provide an explanation. Was this the ghost of Bridget Bishop?
If it is, she seems really polite.
I will most likely do more stories from Salem in the near future.
Salem is fascinating, and its history is quite tragic. Jesse, that was an amazing story. I knew about the Salem witch trials and Bridget Bishop. I didn't know that she was the first person to be put to death during the Salem witch trials. Now, are you ready for my story?
I'm always ready to hear about ghosts.
Today, I am not going to talk about just ghosts. Instead, I'm discussing vampires and the ghost of a well-known vampire.
Okay, now I'm really excited to hear about what you have to say.
Hold on to your seat. It's about to be a spooky ride. Vampires are evil mythological beings who roam the world at night searching for people whose blood they feed upon. They may be the best-known classic monsters of all. Most people associate vampires with Count Dracula, the legendary blood-sucking subject of Bram Stoker's epic novel, Dracula, which was published in 1897. But the history of vampires began long before Stoker was born. There are almost as many different characteristics of vampires as there are vampire legends. But the main characteristic of vampires is they drink human blood. They typically drain their victim's blood using their sharp fangs. By doing so, their victim becomes a vampire. In general, vampires hunt at night since sunlight weakens their powers. Some may have the ability to morph into a bat or wolf. Vampires have super strength and often have a hypnotic, sensual effect on their victims. They can't see their image in a mirror and cast no shadows.
I can't imagine being a vampire.
What do you mean by that?
If you can't see your reflection in the mirror, then how would you do your makeup?
Oh my goodness. I've never thought of that. You have a valid point. That sounds more like a nightmare, especially for me since I use a lot of makeup.
Unless you were a rich vampire, then you could hire someone to do your makeup for you.
That sounds good.
Assuming you don't make your makeup artist dinner.
That's pretty funny. Professional makeup and a snack. The most well-known vampire in history is Vlad. It's believed that Bram Stoker named Count Dracula after Vlad Dracul, also known as Vlad the Impaler. Vlad Dracul was born in Transylvania, Romania. He ruled Wallachia, Romania, off and on between 1448 and 1477. Historians describe Vlad as a cruel ruler. He earned his nickname because his favorite way to kill his enemies was to impale them on a wooden stake.
There's so many Dracula movies.
And I've probably watched them all.
What's your favorite vampire movie?
Lost Boys. It was a movie made around 1987, I believe. It was the first vampire movie, Jesse, I ever saw. I was probably I think 4 when I watched it. Needless to say, my family should have paid more attention to what I was watching on TV late at night, because back then, things like scary movies and stuff only came on late at night.
That's really young. Did it scare you?
Nah, not me. Not at all. I thought it was amazing. I think I've watched that movie throughout my lifetime, probably over 50 times. It's one of my favorite movies. The vampires in that movie weren't the kind that sparkle, like the ones in Twilight. They were vicious, and they wore leather jackets, and they rode motorcycles. It was really cool.
Doesn't sound like the vampires in Twilight movie.
The vampires in Lost Boy would have ate the vampires in Twilight movie, okay? Now that you have an idea of Vlad the Impaler's history, let's get into the spooky hauntings.
I'm ready.
The first location, supposedly haunted by the ghosts of Vlad the Impaler, is an area where he is said to have been killed. While the exact location where Vlad was murdered isn't really known, it is said to lie within the Boldu forest just outside of Bucharest. Interestingly, many people believe that Vlad was beheaded alongside an already very mystical body of water known as the Witch's Pond. The Witch's Pond is notorious for being a gathering place for witches, and the pond is thought to contain some kinds of magical properties and cursed water. People have also claimed to see a man walking in the area, sometimes with a head, sometimes without, who many believe to be the ghost of Vlad.
That's creepy.
Wait till you hear about the next haunted destination, Corvin Castle. Though Corvin looks like a true fairy tale castle, one of the most pristine medieval fortresses remaining in Europe, it has a brutal history of torture and executions. Vlad himself was imprisoned here for approximately 7 years. It is said that he survived by drinking the blood of rats and was slowly driven to insanity inside his dark cell. Some say this was a driving factor in his bloodlust. Since Vlad's death, some say his spirit has returned to become trapped in the dungeon just underneath the Hall of Knights, though some say this could just be a residual energy left from his stay at Corvin Castle.
How can he haunt more than one place?
I have no idea how that works. It is interesting how the same ghost can supposedly be in more than one place at one time.
Maybe it's a residual type of haunting, like a horrible memory that plays on repeat.
That's a good theory, Jesse. Vlad's actual castle was called Pornari Fortress. Many consider this castle to be the most haunted spot. The crumbling Pornari Fortress exists high in the Fagara Mountains. It is accessible to the few tourists willing to make the harsh trip to visit it by ascending 1,480 stairs up a steep hill. Wow, that's just too much stairs. I couldn't do it. Pornari Fortress and its surroundings are said to be insanely haunted. Legend has it that Vlad spotted this ruined castle and its strategic position, so he claimed it and enslaved his enemies to rebuild it. Many of these workers died in the process. Once the project was completed, legend states that these slaves were then executed by impalement.
Vlad sounds horrible.
According to history, he was. The most famous ghost story associated with the haunted Ponari Castle is related to that of Vlad Tepa's wife. It is told that during the siege upon Ponari Fortress, which Vlad managed to escape from, his wife was left behind. Out of fear and desperation, she flung herself from one of the castle towers, off the side of the mountains, to the Arges River below. Sadly, the option of death seemed more appealing to her than the thought of being captured by the invading enemy forces. Since then, many claim to see the roaming spirit of Vlad's wife roaming the castle grounds. Many have claimed to sight what they believe to be her apparition within the castle, as well as near the river cutting through the valley below. The ghosts of those who were enslaved and killed in order to rebuild the fortress are also rumored to haunt the area. Many claim to have sighted them in the surrounding valley and castle. There are also frequent reports from visitors claiming to see unexplainable lights in the valley, which quickly ascend to the castle up the hill where no apparent pathway exists.
I feel bad for all the lives that were lost from Vlad's horrible ways.
Another place said to be haunted by Vlad is the tunnel system known as the Buda Labyrinth. This tunnel system is located in Budapest, Hungary. This tunnel system spans underneath a castle and was once used as a prison and torture area. It is claimed that Vlad was held prisoner here for a number of years. There are some rumors that his ghost exists within Buda Labyrinth.
That reminds me of the catacombs of Paris, France.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that was our very first episode. It was a really neat episode that we did. I think I covered the catacombs, but what did you cover?
I think I covered the Winchester House, also known as the Mystery House.
That's right. That is absolutely right. You covered that and I covered the catacombs. That was a fun episode, our first one. We were very nervous for that one.
Yeah.
Bran Castle is marketed as Dracula's castle, probably because it's the most glorious castle in Transylvania. But in reality, this castle does not have any ties to Vlad. It's possible that Vlad stopped at Bran Castle for a night or two. Yet, it's not documented and it's just really speculation. So while the castle is believed to be haunted by many ghosts, the ghost of the real-life Dracula isn't one of them. And that is a story and hauntings of Vlad the Impaler.
That was a great story.
Thank you. I enjoyed researching it.
Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening on. And don't forget to rate us and leave us a review.
If there's a story you want to hear, or if you or anyone you know have experienced any kind of activities related to ghosts, spirits, hauntings, and haunted houses, please submit it to our podcast and email milkshakesghost@gmail.com.
Don't forget to subscribe to our social channels.
We're available on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, and YouTube. I will link it in the show notes. If you don't already know what the show notes are, it's the description of the podcast, wherever you're listening.
Keep drinking milkshakes
and keep being spooky!